What exactly are needs? So, if you read books on psychology or relationship stuff, communication, if you watch videos, listen to podcasts on that stuff, you probably hear this word needs, right? I want to get my needs met. I want my partner to help me fulfill my needs. I want to ask for a need that I have that needs to be fulfilled, right? So, what exactly are those? Are they the same as preferences? Are they just strong preferences? How are they different from the need for water and food and shelter, right? So in this video, I want to unpack why it's so important to understand what needs actually are, and how to separate them from things that seem like needs but are not. So I think as a starting point, it's helpful to define a spectrum of kind of three categories. So first, we have preferences. These are things like do you prefer coffee or tea? Do you prefer cats or dogs? Um, Preferences can be important. They can kind of tell a lot about who you are and compatibility in relationship. But kind of the marker of a preference versus something else is that there's kind of a lower amount of distress experienced if you don't get your preference met. Then on the other end of the spectrum, we have survival needs. These are like the core needs to keep us alive. So you need shelter, food, safety, right? So if those needs are not met, it's way more serious. You might die or be seriously harmed or, major health consequences or whatever. And then in between are more kind of psycho-emotional needs or relational needs or, well-being needs. And that could be physical well-being or mental well-being, emotional well-being. So this, I think, is really what is typically meant in the psychology context or the relational context when we talk about getting your needs met. For most of us who are going to be watching this video, right, we already have our survival needs met. You probably have shelter and water and all that stuff. So when you talk about needs in relationship, you're probably talking about psychological needs, emotional needs, relational needs. So those are somewhere in between the kind of low distress if you don't get them met and extreme distress. So there might very well be significant consequences if you don't get a need met. But it could be kind of a prolonged period of dysregulation or unhappiness or worry. And it's a spectrum, right? It could be some needs are certainly much more important than others, right? But these kinds of needs, as examples, are a need to feel accepted, a need for belonging, a need for relatedness, a need to be understood, a need to play. And so there's some interesting research. There's something called self-determination theory, which suggests that there are needs that are universal across all human cultures. The three big ones are autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So irrespective of time period or where you are in the world or whatever, all humans have those. And so when you're trying to decide what is a need versus just what is a preference that you have, if your partner says, hey, I have this need that I really need to be fulfilled in this relationship, I really need to feel like you're taking this need seriously. One way that it's different from just a preference is that needs are more universal. Kind of any human could really identify with like, oh, I know what you mean when you say like you have a core need to be understood, or a core need for autonomy or agency, or a core need to be able to play and express yourself. Whereas you have a preference for coffee over tea, well, not everyone will agree with that, right? But a tricky point here is needs might be universal, but then a layer on top of needs are strategies. strategies for getting those needs met. So two people might have the same need, for, say, autonomy, but one person has a strategy to fulfill that need of just pushing everyone away. I don't need anyone. I'm fine on my own. And someone else might have a different strategy of, being really relational about it. Like, hey, I really value our connection, and I'm noticing I'm feeling a bit engulfed right now, a bit kind of enmeshed with you, and I think I need maybe a day or two apart. So those are different strategies for getting that same need fulfilled. So sometimes what can be tricky is things that feel like needs in relationship. Like if you say, I have a need to have sex at least once a week. Right? To you, if that's really important to you, that might feel like a reasonable need to say, hey, if we want to be in a relationship, you need to fulfill this need of mine. And the problem is that's, sex once a week is not actually a need in the sense that we're talking about here. It's a strategy. So what's the need underneath that? Well, it's probably something like, I want to feel deeply connected to you. I want to feel like we're having an intimate connection. I want to feel chosen by you. I want to feel desired by you. I want to feel close. Those are the real needs. And then the strategy you've developed is, well, I need sex. And so that's where negotiation comes in. So if you say, hey, partner, I would really love sex once a week, and they say, oh, well, that's too much for me. I can't make that happen. But could you help me understand the need you have underneath that request? And then you could say, well, I was thinking sex would be really nice, but I guess, if we just cuddle more regularly, if we have longer hugs, if you tell me you love me more, actually, that would go a long way for getting my needs met. So that's just an example. For you, it might be something else, like maybe sex is about, touch. You really need touch needs. So you can discuss then what are other strategies for getting those touch needs met, even outside this one partnership, right? If that one person cannot help you meet that need, well, is there a strategy like, well, I could go out to a partner dancing event, and then I get to touch lots of different people and get that need met in a very different way from what my mind was saying of, oh, it has to be sex with my partner. And yeah, of course, partner dancing with strangers probably does not feel nearly as good as sex with your partner. But we're talking here about using needs, the framework of needs and strategies to negotiate something that is actually possible. Like, sure, best case scenario, yeah, maybe you want a partner who wants to have sex every single day. Cool. That sounds awesome. But you also have to be with the reality of, here's the person you're with and what are they available for. Right? And that's where the negotiation could come in of, okay, if we both understand the need that's under the surface here, then we can discuss different possible strategies for meeting it. All right. I invite you right now to start thinking of some examples. What are things that you have thought of as kind of non-negotiable needs, like, I have to get this need met in a relationship, whether it's romantic or from a friendship or whatever, and how might instead some of those things you've been calling needs actually be more like preferences or more like strategies for getting a need met? If that was helpful, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. I wish you a nourishing day.